I'm going to give you 7 tips to sound more professional and confident in English. Here in my academy, a lot of students say to me they feel childish or unprofessional when they're speaking English to clients. I've dealt with this problem a lot, so I'm sure that these 7 tips, if you apply them all, you'll feel a noticeable difference the next time you speak to someone in a business setting. Tip number 1 is to expand your spoken vocabulary, but the key word there is spoken. What I want you to think about is your English vocabulary as a whole. This is the language you know. It's a large circle that represents the language you know. And within that circle, you have a smaller circle that represents the language you use. Now, for a native speaker, that inner circle would not be too small. But what I notice with my students is the inner circle is far too small. They know lots of language, they know lots of vocabulary, but actually using it is the more important point. So what I tell my students here is focus on your inner circle. You're expanding the language you use. This is a whole lesson in itself, how to expand your language. But the best place you can start is by using YouTube videos, listening to language through podcasts, reading the newspaper. Do remember, the language you hear is more likely spoken English, so that's the kind of language we want to add to our spoken English. And to get you started, check out the videos on my channel and go to britplus.net. There's loads of language lists and great content there to get you started. Avoid filler sounds and filler words and phrases. So what does this mean? A filler sound is these sort of sounds you make between words or within a sentence because you're filling the silence. Also, and a lot of native speakers do this, we fill it with words and phrases. Words like, just. Phrases such as, you know what I mean. You've heard this before, you hear it in dramas. These are all meaningless. They are just filling the silence. So here's what I want you to do. I have a 4-step process to overcome this. Firstly, you record your voice. I know it feels uncomfortable, but you have to record yourself speaking English. Listen back to that recording, and the next step is to identify your mistakes. Identify, what are you doing? Are you using filler sounds? Are you using filler words? You've got to identify your habit. And then you can move on to the next step, which is to increase your awareness. So you've identified it, you listen for it in the rest of the recording, and then start to increase your awareness in your speaking. I do this as well. Sometimes I have habits. I'll tell you honestly, my habit was, I kept using So I started by hearing it in my podcasts and then trying to increase my awareness in speaking. Finally, we need to remove and replace. Replace doesn't mean we're going to put something else in there. What I mean is replace with silence. Silence is absolutely fine. If you need to pause, then you can do. It's a very powerful thing to do. Silence is very powerful in your speaking and one of the cornerstones of sounding more professional. One of the easiest ways to sound more professional is to upgrade your intensifiers. Intensifiers are adverbs that strengthen the meaning of other expressions and show emphasis. Now, there are so many intensifiers to learn. You can Google it. Google intensifiers, get a list, see what you like. But for today, I'm going to suggest some of the ones that I like more. One of the ones I hear a lot in podcasts that I listen to, business podcasts, is tremendously. That project was tremendously difficult. It's tremendously helpful. You can see it can be used both positively and negatively. All we are doing is intensifying the adjective. Another one is incredibly, and I also like exceptionally. All three of these can intensify a positive or negative. And you can think of it like the word very. It's just a great upgrade, a professional upgrade on the word very. Now, we talked about this before, getting comfortable with silence, using pauses. One of the biggest mistakes I hear in this academy from my students is what I call the endless sentence. A student feels uncomfortable with silence, so they keep going through the sentence and they never stop and they keep using these conjunctions, but it doesn't sound so good. It's an endless sentence connected with simple conjunctions and so but. Because that makes them feel like they are speaking better, they're not pausing. This is a huge mistake, and we must show to people the end of sentences, the end of ideas, and the way you do that is through pauses. So you've got to get comfortable with that. Now, to give you a good example of this, and I talked about this recently in my conversation strategy video, is when someone asks you a question, for example, how was your morning? My students often give the basic answer, and maybe they add detail, but they combine it together. They say, oh yes, my morning was good and I did a lot of things this morning, but it was quite busy. That doesn't sound good. What I want to hear is your basic answer should stand out with the use of a pause after it. So, how was your morning? Yeah, my morning was good. There was a lot to do this morning. It was really, really busy, but we got everything done, so I'm feeling relieved now. Pause between that basic answer and your detail. But more broadly, make sure you pause between any ideas and you be comfortable pausing. One of the big mistakes students make is they perceive speed as ability. That means they feel that the faster they speak, the more fluent they sound. But it's just not true. I want you to remember this very important sentence. You don't need everyone to remember every word you say. You slow down so that the important parts are memorable. If I deliver this video to you now at a very fast speed and I'm talking about all these different concepts and ideas and I never slow down for anything and I never emphasize a point, you are going to feel exhausted as a listener. And that's how we will feel as well if I am your audience, I am dealing with you in business, and you are speaking very quickly and not emphasizing the important points. I'm going to feel exhausted and I'm not going to capture your key message. I talked about this in a video about Steve Jobs. He's very good at this. Another one who's worth listening to is Barack Obama. Simply, you know the key message that you're trying to deliver. We often end or begin with the key message, so just slow down for that point. Another great way to sound more professional is to upgrade your transition language. Now, transition language is the language we use to connect ideas, to connect A and B. Now, on the most basic level, we have conjunctions, so and, so, but. So I always like to tell students ways to upgrade those three conjunctions, especially when you're delivering two big ideas. If you're using and, you may like to use additionally or furthermore. When showing cause and effect, rather than using so, you may use accordingly as a result of this. Finally, when you use but, so we're showing that A and B are the opposite, I like using conversely or having said that. Having said that's a good one, but you must make sure that A and B are quite long. They're quite big ideas. So you'll talk about this whole thing. Pause, use your pauses. Having said that, and then deliver B. Of course, there are so many other types of connective phrases. One's to show conclusion, one's to show order. That's another lesson. It's a huge lesson, and I promise you I'll deal with that in a future lesson. Now, finally, everything I've told you today, it all connects together. It's really about upgrading the language and then delivering it well. Upgrading the things you say, intensifiers, connective phrases, the vocabulary itself, and then delivering it well. That's how you sound professional and confident in English. So the 7th tip I have for you is to record and analyze. This is something I really advocate for. You don't know this about me, but when I was young, I used to be a golf teacher. It's a long time ago now, 15 years ago, but I was training to be a professional golfer. Anyway, the reason I mention this is I was a huge fan of using video to analyze sport, to analyze golf. And I remain a fan now as an English teacher. Now, it doesn't have to be a video, but you should record yourself speaking English. You can do this any way you want. You can prepare a presentation, a speech, just do small talk, sort of freestyling small talk, but you must listen to yourself, analyze, and then decide based on today's video which areas you need to work on. We all need to improve something. I'm exactly the same. So that's my 7th tip, record and analyze. Okay, well done. I really hope you enjoyed today's lesson. It's something I feel passionately about. Now, if you got this far, you know the drill. I want you to leave me a thumbs up in the comments section. I really love to see who is dedicated to improving their English with me. As always, if you want more free content, you want to come and join the community, go to britplus.net. Now, there's loads of stuff there already, but there's going to be more changes coming soon, more courses, more community content. So go there, check it out, see if there's something you like. And of course, leave me a like on today's lesson. It lets me know that this is right for you. And also, leave any comments you can in the comments section. I check every single one, and it will help me get to know you. Thanks for watching. I really enjoyed today's lesson, and I'll be back next week with another lesson and another step to becoming a global leader.